everybody. I'm Nicole Harris.
And I'm Callie Tessier.
And this is our podcast,
Between Two Fans. Today our guest is Cody Wentzel, our truck application engineering manager.
Hello, Cody. Welcome to Between Two Fans.
Hi, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am the truck application engineering manager. As you said, I've been with Horton for 6.5 years about. I have been in the management position for the last 2 years, I believe. I previously came from team industries, so I was in the power sports off-highway power sports industry for, I think it was about 6 years.
Okay.
And then prior to that, I graduated from University of North Dakota.
What kind of power sports stuff did you make? Or did team industries make?
So they provided products for ATVs, side-by-sides, snowmobiles, golf carts, anything kind of the smaller stuff that you'd see, mostly in the recreational industry. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you transition into your current position at Horton?
So I got hired on as an application engineer in the off-highway group, as you both know.
Yes.
The superior group.
So I started off there, which was kind of interesting. It was kind of similar to what I was coming from, because I was coming from kind of the off-highway, sector already in the power sports industry. So it was kind of a little bit of a parallel. So I started that. I was there in that group for, 4 years. And then I got promoted internally for the management role. There was some company growth, and there was some shifting and moving around of positions, and some positions opened up, and that's where I moved into that role.
Nice.
Okay, so between, obviously we have app engineering and we have sales. What does the dynamic look like between sales and app engineering, and is it different from off-highway?
I don't really see it as too different from off-highway. Basically, each account manager is tied to one app engineer. It's a one-on-one. They work together pretty regularly, and essentially there's I think it really depends on the customer. So with off-highway, you might have several different customers you work with as an app engineer and as an account manager. Whereas in on-highway and truck side, our customers are big enough where you're probably only going to be tied to one, with the exception of our specialty accounts, which is a lot of smaller accounts as opposed to just our big guys, the big OEs in the truck market. So essentially, it's pretty much the same, I would say. It'd be just like your big customers in off-highway, where you're probably just going to be tied to one customer, like you are for the most part, one primary. It's kind of like that. So.
Okay. So what kind of truck applications does on-highway cover?
So what kind of trucks, essentially? So you have your heavy duty, so that's your long haul and your regional haul, the sleeper trucks, and then your bigger trucks that just do the short runs. And then you have your medium duty, you have your vocational. So your vocational would be like your refuse trucks and your cement concrete trucks. So it covers that. And then you kind of have your specialty stuff too. So you have your fire trucks of all the different types and sizes. And then you also have your military. So we have the military side too. So we have a little bit. It is, we say on highway, it's mostly on highway, but there are some applications where you'll have an off-highway vehicle, something that's primarily used for mining and construction. You have bigger tires and whatnot. So if our customer produces a vehicle like that, we support those applications too.
Okay.
So is it kind of in off-highway, you can have a certain engine, but it can be used in a bunch of different applications?
Exactly, yeah.
Do you use the same clutch in each engine, or is it different for each application like it is for off-highway?
So we might use the same base clutch in the sense of the same product. So if it's our LCX 230, we might use that for all of the different or at least most of the different applications that use that engine.
Okay.
But we won't necessarily use the exact same product in the sense of a part number, so the bracket is probably going to be different.
Okay.
So an OE might release a new truck with a new engine in it, and with that, there might be 6 to 10 different part numbers of clutches based on, the clutch, the fan center is up high versus a lower fan center, and you have different variations based on the final vehicle it's in and the hood,
Okay.
the hood height, and all of this, emissions requirements, and it'll, or I should say, cooler packages and whatnot. So
Yeah.
accessories that are under the engine, under the hood, and on the engine. So
Do you see a lot of variation with fans that you use, or are they typically fully molded fans?
yeah, it's essentially 100% fully molded fans.
Okay.
So the variation you're going to get is more whether it's, I think predominantly we're 11 blades for most of the truck market. Sometimes there's some 6 blades, there's 9 blades, but it's primarily fully molded. And the rationale for that is, I mean, higher speeds sometimes, but I think a big driver is just cost.
Okay.
They're cheaper to make at volume, easier to make at high volume.
Okay.
So, and that's what truck is. I mean, it's just like automotive in the sense it's high volume production,
Right.
and cost competitive.
Okay, so what are the different customer requirements for on-road? Again, comparing to off-road, because off-road doesn't have a ton.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's a lot more.
So when you say customer requirements, are you talking what are the drivers, like fuel efficiency, noise, or you mean?
Customer requirements, do you have to perform more testing on the clutches that we're speccing them?
Sure.
And then also kind of that side too that you mentioned,
Sure. So
fuel efficiency and stuff.
So I would say it's fairly similar to off-highway, again, in that sense. So we validate our products ahead of time, right? So
Yeah.
we know that our products are sound, but it's about making sure that they work in the application. So really, all of the same steps kind of apply in the sense of you're doing if it's a viscous clutch, you're doing your validation tune, you're testing it in the vehicle, making sure the controls work and whatnot. So it really isn't that much different. That I would say being more automotive, a lot of times there may be some more validation required from the customer in the sense of they may need to do more testing on their end.
Okay,
with,
not
with
necessarily
their
on
product
ours.
that doesn't necessarily involve us.
Okay.
And it'll be a broader scale. They might be ordering 50 to 80 clutches for one build to be able to test. So to put in 50 to 80 trucks. So
Okay.
it can be pretty extensive on their end. But from our end, really the only validation, I shouldn't say the only validation, but one of the validation items that we typically get is if the fan is too close to the radiator or not within our recommended limits or something like that, or there's obstructions, behind or in front of the fan, if there's any doubt, we might do an IVST, so in-vehicle strain test. So we'll do that at the customer location typically, or it's in the vehicle. But then besides that, there isn't typically a lot more.
Okay.
So can you explain what IATF is and how it relates to truck applications? Because it doesn't really relate much to off-highway customers.
Correct. So I hope I don't get any quality people shaking their heads at me when I start talking about this because I'm not as good at it, but or as experienced with it, I should say. But ISO is what you guys are all in off-highway. That's
Yep.
your main driver, right? So IATF is kind of a spin-off of that. So IATF can't actually exist by itself without ISO. So ISO is, as I understand it, at least, is the stepping stone. You have the ISO 9001, and then the ITF 16949 or something along those lines.
I think it is that, yeah.
It's an add-on essentially to the ISO, and IATF is International Automotive Task Force. So, and that's a global standard that applies to automotive, and that's what it has to apply to truck. So we add that on in the trucking industry. That's the additional standard we're regulated by, or have to adjust our QMS system to. So the other one I should add to it is one that's been coming up a lot more is VDA. So VDA is I can't remember the acronym off the top of my head, and I know it's driving me nuts because I absolutely know it. But it's a German standard, so
Okay.
it's driven from the German automotive market. It's like German Automotive Industry Association or something like that, is what that's based on. So VDA is similar to ITF, but it's mostly just the German automotive market. But that said, not all, but most of the trucks you see on the road, as far as just the major OEs, they have ties to Germany. So Daimler is owned in Germany, Daimler Truck North America. You have Navistar, it's International Motors now, is owned under the Traton Group, which is German. It's under the same umbrella as Volkswagen. And I believe it's Volkswagen, I think, that actually initially created or founded the VDA. So with our ties with these German customers, then that means now we have the VDA sometimes comes with it. So we're starting to see that more.
Do those things mainly affect design or manufacturing, or what do those standards kind of tie into in the engineering process?
It seems to me it's very process based. So I think it kind of integrates throughout the whole development.
Okay.
So it's involved in when our initial design and manufacturing, and probably even shipping and procurement. It's broadly integrated, and I shouldn't talk too much about it because I don't know a ton about it. We're starting to get more and more of it, right?
Okay.
So it's fairly new to the North American side. The German side, the Europeans on our counterparts are probably I know are much more familiar with it because they've already been seeing a lot more of it than we have
Okay.
on the North American side.
Interesting. I never would have thought that.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's starting to be a bigger and bigger deal.
Okay. So with the more kind of advanced testing, would you say customer visits are a little bit more frequent compared to off-highway?
I don't think so either. I think it's really dependent on the customer again. So,
Okay.
If you have a smaller customer in the off-highway market, like I was used to, smaller customers in the off-highway.
Yeah.
And you have, you might have an initial visit to get to know them and talk about initial projects, I should say, applications. And you have, a few more visits after that for testing and whatnot. But it really depends. Like in truck, we already know the customer, right?
Yep.
What we don't know sometimes is if they have personnel changes. So if they have new engineers that we have to interface with, if they have new purchasing or commodity buyers, then it's good to have a face-to-face meeting with them.
Right.
So we'll meet with them. The only other time, the main time we're visiting customers is when we have testing. So depending on, they have multiple phases in their product schedules or product cycles, and you might meet whenever they have testing, anything that needs our help, we're there and available to be able to help test our products. So.
Yep. So pretty similar to us.
I think
dynamic between customers and off.
I think it's very similar. Yeah.
Do all of the truck companies, do they also have application engineering, or is it a different dynamic?
Yep, they all have application engineering. So I think what we're mostly working with are the design engineers. So we're
for
working
thermal design.
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's their thermal and cooling groups. Typically, we're working with them.
Okay.
So it's typically their design engineers and their project managers and whatnot, or their project leads we'd be working with.
Do you work with application engineers for your smaller companies? Because I know my customer's slightly bigger, and I work with their cooling department for their engines.
Yep, same thing.
I usually some of them are application. More frequently lately, they've been application engineers.
Oh,
Sure.
interesting.
So we would work with application engineers in the sense of if we're working with engine OEs.
Okay.
So they have application engineers, and a lot of times we'd be working with them.
Mine are probably like that though, because mine are mostly radiator guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're like
Yeah,
they're
they can
not
be.
like yours is like the original person.
Mine's
who's
an OEM.
creating the actual engine. So they'll probably have a little bit more design background.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah,
That's what we're here for. The learning, right?
that's right.
And to hear any fun on-highway stories.
So I'm gonna have to live vicariously through some of my guys that I
Okay.
manage, because ultimately they get to do the fun stuff, really. So they get to travel to the customer locations and be part of the testing. So I know one thing that comes to mind is I kind of mentioned that we have to be there, or we want to be there for the testing.
Yeah.
Some of their evaluation and some of their testing is pretty cool. I think it's what you'd expect, but it's cool. So they do winter testing, they do cold weather testing, they do altitude testing where they're going to be driving through the mountains.
Oh, that would
to
be really cool.
Try to, yeah. I mean, it's different simulation points, right, and or different, I should say, data points.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, and then you have the hot weather stuff. So a lot of them test in like the really hot environments. So we had one scenario, and this has happened. I'm sure this has happened many times prior to me, but one thing that I can think of is one of our customers asked us to be there for the evaluation of one of our products in right outside of Las Vegas, and it was July or something like that. So it was it was over 100
That sounds
degrees.
bad.
Yeah, and it's they had to do there's a grade where they do several miles, I think, fairly straight up a hill, and
Yeah.
I think that maybe even back down the hill. And they invited us to be there, and then when I say us, the guys from my team,
Yeah.
and the account manager, and they rode in the back of the truck, and I think I'm sure it was a sleeper, and they rode in the back of the truck and kind of just were there for all the
Yeah.
testing and the support. They got to see how our product operated and how it performed, and in the actual use case, and then so that's really cool. I think the fact that our customers want us to be there, and we get the opportunity to travel to their locations wherever that may be in the U.S., even including the mountain testing in Colorado and wherever else they are.
That's really cool.
So yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Do you ever miss being an application engineer rather than a manager of application engineers?
It has its moments. I really liked getting to know a lot of people, all over the U.S. and working with new people all the time, and that was a good experience. But right now, managing these guys it's a good time, and I get to see a lot of different sides of things than I did in the off highway. It's different exposures and different day-to-day activities, and it's just different. So I mean, at times you miss it, but at the same time, I really like what I'm doing now. So
That's good.
yeah. Oh, the other thing I was going to tell you guys. So this is cool for me. So I'm from Bemidji, Minnesota, where it's stupid cold. Even if you thought Minneapolis was cold, it's colder than that. So Paul and Babe, for those of you who don't know Minneapolis,
Oh, yeah.
or Bemidji, I mean, it's Paul
Yeah.
and Babe is like their thing. It's supposed to be like number 4th or 2nd.
It's that statue.
The
Photographed.
lumberjack in the blue ox.
Yeah, Babe and the Blue Ox. So I was at one of the customers' test facilities, and I'm sitting in there, and I'm like getting a tour of their dyno, and I'm like walking through it. And I look over, and I see Paul and Babe in a picture with a truck in front of it. And I said, "You guys were in Bemidji," and they're like, "Yeah, that's where we do our cold weather testing." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh my
that
gosh.
absolutely makes sense.
It gets
that
cold
totally
there."
checks out. It's miserable, so yeah, I get it. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
That's
it's
so
really
fun.
cool.
What a
Yeah.
small world.
Yeah, it's really cool. But it is supposed to be like the number 1 or 2 most photographed thing in the United States somehow.
Really?
Yeah, somehow I think it beats out Mount Rushmore.
People love a giant
I
lumberjack
don't know
and
how
a
it's
blue
possible.
ox.
I don't know how it's possible. Somebody on this call or this watching this is going to get really mad at me from South
Yeah.
Dakota, and they'll be like, "No, it's absolutely a
definitely
lie.
Mount Rushmore."
You are lying through your teeth." But no, this is what I've heard. It's only what I've heard.
Interesting.
I've lived here my entire life, and I've never taken a picture in front of that.
You
I
should.
have only because I visited.
Well, I've visited Bemidji too. I've just never stopped and took a picture.
You gotta do it.
Oh, you have to. Like,
Yeah.
I went up there for a college visit, and I was like, I have to take a picture with this thing. Otherwise, were you even in Bemidji?
Yeah.
I don't know. You want to
Didn't
go
count.
take a road trip?
No. Not if it's cold. Not if it's colder than here.
Do it in the
Wait till
summer.
summer.
Do it in
Yeah.
the summer.
Wait
Nice.
till summer. Okay, well, thank you for coming on our podcast, Cody.
Glad to be here. It's fun.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you next time on Between Two Fans. Bye.
Bye.